reduce the kid, and it's why we're bringing it back. We really took the feedback seriously over the years, and we'll finally be able to see it on the field.
A storied history and tradition that embodies the city. The colors incorporate a renewal of past legacies.
It is the history of this franchise that is the essence of why we are fans.
The moments and memories that are ingrained in the minds of generations past
The men who don those green and silver winged helmets.
What does it mean to be a Philadelphia Eagle?
And welcome to another edition of the AT Birds Weekly Report. The time has come. It is Kelly Green week. We will get into a little bit about the Jets game. We're going to break down this Eagles-Dolphins Sunday night matchup where, like I mentioned, Kelly Green is back. And oh boy, is it. Looks awesome. I love all the stuff you're seeing online. You see some of the helmets in the players' locker rooms. We have a lot to go over. Of course, like I said, we have the Eagles game against the Jets and, of course, the Dolphins game. But as always, I am joined by Chip at Chip for the Birds, and I myself, Johnny Uleka at JohnnyU9322, will be talking about both things. Eagles made some transactions. There's some injuries, so there's a lot to talk about when we go to this show. The other thing I do want to bring up, there will be a trivia question for you, Chip, because we've gone a couple weeks, actually a couple of months, I believe, without a trivia question for you. And it is going to be pertaining to some Kelly Green. So I do want to bring that in. And of course, we will do Uleka locks. We'll do the predictions. But, we were at the game, so we can give our input. I want to hear what you have to say. Now, I know the Twitter world and whatever people want to call it. Don't go on Facebook. It's an absolute dumpster fire in terms of any type of opinion that you hear. But people think the sky is falling after one game. What is your take?
I mean, here's the deal. They played like absolute crap. That's what it comes down to. And yes, as Johnny mentioned, there is obviously a variety of things that we could talk about as far as things that went wrong, things that went right, which is not a lot.
You're right there.
But in reality, what it comes down to is, look, to win every game in the NFL has happened exactly one time. I am not looking for them to win every single game. I'm looking for them to win the big game. And while I think that is still, an overall huge possibility, I do feel that the injuries are definitely starting to pile up. So I think there's stuff to talk about as far as, how we get past this stretch that we're about to approach, because, we're approaching the part of the season where I think every Eagles fan had a little bit of worry, and going in not healthy is not ideal, but at the same time, there are things to fix. There are things to improve on, and they lost to the Jets.
Yeah, unfortunately,
a Jets defense, by the way. I mean, let's just get right into it. A Jets defense, by the way, which by all accounts is a Super Bowl caliber defense, right? I mean, that's what the Jets were going to be known for. And they added Aaron Rodgers for that idea of being able to push to that next level. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not going to play. I mean, I say obviously, but apparently, he's paid off some shaman somewhere, so he might be back sooner rather than later.
Medicine.
I know. But at the same time, that defense played the way that it was supposed to play. The Jets defense absolutely dominated. What is concerning to me is the lack of adjustments that were made by the Eagles. And when they did make adjustments and they did correct, they overcorrected and abandoned what has worked for them for the last 2 seasons, which is the run game, because we just couldn't run the ball.
So, you couldn't run the ball. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, the injury aspect really hurt them. Losing Lane Johnson was very big and key because even if you wanted to run the ball, Sua Opeta is not a great run blocker, and
No.
Jack Driscoll struggled as well. So right there, it was a struggle to try and get any type of push up front. And of course, you're going up against the New York Jets with Quinnen Williams, who is a top flight defensive tackle. So that gives you a little, excuse me, that gives you a little bit of a disadvantage. And of course, the Jets pass rush is very talented. They may not show in sack wise, but you look a lot of the, Jalen had to run for his life on a couple of plays. And of course, the one interception, he got his arm hit, which just made the ball hang up there and just right to the defender. The last one, of course, was inexcusable. We know that. But when
the third one too, I mean, it was back to Jalen not setting his feet.
Well, no, that's what I meant. The last one. The last one was inexcusable. They should have never being at the game, looking at this, looking at what the team was doing. So 2 minutes left, you run the ball. Okay, you get 2-3 yards, whatever it may be. You run the ball there. You let the clock chew all the way down. You call the timeout, then you punt it. You give them maybe minute 10, minute 8 left on the clock, probably down by their 20-yard line. They have to drive,
right,
50 yards. Their offense wasn't doing much of anything all game. And a lot of the times that they scored points was they had short fields on, turnovers.
Based off of turnovers, right.
4-0, the turnover ratio is never ideal for you to try to win a ball game.
You're not going to win a game in the NFL.
No, and you should know. But the way the defense played, and this is where I'm going to give Sean Desai his credit, because he, with all the injuries, especially in the secondary, you lose Reed Blankenship, you don't have Sidney Brown, Justin Evans is on IR, Darius Slay is not playing, so you have Job on the outside, and Bradley Roby gets hurt. So you have Goodrich in the slot, you have Job on the outside,
who was just released today. That's how bad he is.
He was we'll get into all those moves that were made for the Eagles. And then you have to have Mekhi Garner, a practice squad elevation at safety with Terrell Edmonds. So they had a lot going on with that, without having Darius Slay and Jalen Carter. You were missing some key pieces, but the defense played well. And I will say, I will proclaim that Hassan Reddick is back. And
for sure.
That is absolutely evident the last 2 games. He is for sure back. 6 sacks this season so far now. So he is back on pace to kind of what he did last year. And I just want to bring up these stats for you. I did a little bit of a dig into what the Eagles defense did last year and then what they've done so far this year. So it's a couple different, it has to do mostly with the pass rush. So you look at what they did last year, 22.1% blitz rate, 70 sacks, which we know that's been well documented. Pressure rate of 25.5%, which of course was towards the top of the league. A hurry percentage of 7.3%, which I think was top 2 in the league. And a points per game of 20.2. So this year through 6 games, their blitz percentage is 24.9, 25%. So it's a little bit up, an uptick in that. Sacks, they have 20 sacks through 6 games. They're on pace for 57. Which is a very good number when you look at that. The pressure rate is 29.1%, and the hurry percentage is 12.1%, and the points per game is 20.7. With the amount of injuries and what they've got going on, that is one hell of a comparison and numbers-wise comparison. I think Sean Desai is doing an outstanding job. And, of course, this is the true test the next – 7-8 weeks that he's got this, amount of teams, good teams that you have to play against, good quarterbacks that you're going to have to play against. This is really going to tell you what he is as a defensive coordinator and a game planning mind when you look at this Eagles team.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have quite the run over the next couple of weeks. So we have Miami this week, obviously. then we're going to Washington on another Philly sports trip. After we've already, Washington gave us a bit of a run for the money here. So I'm worried about playing that team again so soon. Then you have Dallas, who is performing way under what they think they should be doing. I think they're right on par. And then a rematch of the Super Bowl, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle. Like, we are entering right now a time where we've got to be healthy, and we're not. We're entering a time where we really need to be clicking on all cylinders, which we're not. I think the offense has been struggling. I see Adam, should Brian Johnson still call plays or should Nick take it back? Brian Johnson's your offensive coordinator. He's going to keep calling the plays. I am not ready to overreact on anything yet. I'm just not. I'm not ready to overreact on anything because there's a lot of places to overreact. Is Jalen Hurts playing up to the standard that he holds himself and we hold him to? No.
And I'm sure he knows that too.
And he knows it too, right? They had a closed players meeting right after the game where Nick Sirianni didn't have to say anything. Did Devontae Smith have one of the worst drops I've ever seen? Yes.
2 of them, actually.
Does Dallas Goedert still have a bad drop at least once a game? Yes. Do they abandon the run game at the first opportunity that it's not working? They're not picking up 6 to 8 yards per clip? Yes. Did we have a lot of injuries? Yes. Did we have did we have injuries along the offensive and defensive sides of the ball? Yes. These are all things that we know.
Jake Elliott misses a kick.
Jake Elliott misses a kick. Yes. These are
a culmination of a lot of things. It was
correct. It was a bad game, but you're talking about the same day that the San Francisco 49ers lost to the Cleveland Browns and Brock Purdy had his worst game of his NFL career. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but
what happens now is, do you bounce back?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is you look at how badly they played, turning the ball over 4 times, missing that crucial field goal, the drops, because that one Devontae drop where Jalen goes up in the pocket, throws, doesn't have really anyone near him within 4 to 5 yards that he probably would have been in the red zone, if not, goal to go situation where they can either get a field goal or they score again. So to me, there's a lot of plays. There's a big Gainwell drop right at the first down marker. There was that. There was a lot in that game. It just seemed like nothing was going right for them. And, their defense kept them in the game, because if this was, to me, if this was a Jonathan Gannon defense, who knows, I guess. But if this was a team if this was a 2021 team, they would have been probably down 31-14 and not had any type of chance to win that game. But they try and find ways to win, whether they weather the storm or whatever it may be. I'm hoping you see a more of a settled down team come this Sunday night. And, I want to bring up the transactions that we saw in place. Now, of course, they waived Mario Goodrich. They signed veteran receiver Julio Jones to the practice squad, but of course it's just a maneuver, basically just going to maneuver him up and down the roster until kind of what they did with Bradley Roby. So they signed, got a little cough there. They signed Julio Jones, a veteran receiver. Okay. They signed Josiah Scott, slot corner, who was here last year. He was here in training camp, signed him off the Steelers practice squad. Little bit of familiarity because they said that with the injuries that Bradley Roby most likely is going to miss maybe 1 week. The good news is Lane Johnson may not miss any time. It's not a high ankle sprain that was originally thought. It's just a lateral sprain, which is just like a low ankle sprain. And I know Brian Baldinger was talking, I think it was today, mentioned about Lane, and Lane should be good to go. He thinks Lane will be good, which, hey, if that's the case, that is really good news, because we know how the Eagles play without Lane Johnson. And I don't know if we want to see Jack Driscoll playing right tackle anymore.
And it was funny because before the game, they were talking about how Jack Driscoll could actually be trade bait.
Not anymore.
No, he put too much on film. And I think that's you look at a guy like Andre Dillard, and I'm going to bring up our friend from last couple seasons. he was just benched in the Titans game because of how bad he played. So once again, how good is Jeff Stoutland? And how much were we able to fleece teams simply because we didn't let these guys touch the field?
Yeah. Listen, to me, I think Driscoll is more of a guard than a tackle.
I
think
agree.
he does better in the aspect of being a guard than a tackle. I would have really liked to see Tyler Steen play that right tackle position instead of Driscoll, but
But Driscoll had the experience.
Yeah, and he was the veteran. He's been here for 4 years, so
okay. And he's played well over like this. This was just a horrific game.
Yeah, and of course it doesn't help. The Jets have a very good quick pass rush, and the Jets also play a wide 9 defense, which means the defensive ends line up a little bit wider. So again, coming in off the bench was not his best game, unfortunately. But looking at, I don't know, I just watching the game, watching from where we were seated, you can, I had my eyes on Driscoll, and it was sometimes it was tough to watch because there wasn't much time at all, and Jalen had to get out of the pocket. The one throw that he had where he literally was stiff arming a defender and got it to AJ, unbelievable. So, and of course AJ Brown had a hell of a game. That one catch on the sideline there. So, of course, he had over 125 yards. The first Eagle to have 4+ games over 125. And I think the only one since the NFL merger to have at least 5 is Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
So he is going to be going for that on Sunday night. But like I said, with the Eagles, in terms of their injuries,
my big thing is as we start kind of moving from the Jets to the Dolphins, my big thing is I don't want to overcorrect. There are definite corrections that need to be made. However, I don't want to completely abandon the passing game because we didn't run the ball enough. I want to stop letting Jalen Hurts take unnecessary. I mean, there's got to be ways to have him not touch the football 85% of every single offensive play.
Well, he's going to touch it every play, but I know what you mean in terms of, actually be the lead
unnecessary hits.
Yeah. I understand that. It's understandable. Let me see something here. I want to look at this because we're, going into talking about the Miami Dolphins. So here's a fun stat when you look at, of course, this Miami Dolphins team is explosive offensively. We know that from what we've seen this year. Their 5 wins this year, the combined record of the teams that they've won is 5-24. So, yes, I know their offense is very explosive, is really good. But, of course, Eagles have beat the Patriots too. They beat the Giants. They beat the Broncos. They beat the Panthers. They got absolutely smacked around by the Buffalo Bills. That's the only loss that they had. And, of course, it was to the Buffalo Bills, who are, of course, struggled Sunday night, but they are still a good team, a good offense.
Here's where my concern is going to be. There are so many weapons that Tua can throw the ball to. There are so many weapons that Tua can throw the ball to. And the fact of the matter is, we do not have the secondary firepower right now to stop them. We just don't.
No, you don't have the secondary powered, but you're not going to be like. I guess Sidney Brown's going to be back, which is better than seeing Mekhi Garner out there, who is super young. Which, of course, Sidney Brown's young too. He's still a rookie. Josiah Scott, I believe, is probably going to get the slot corner position. It's going to be a struggle, but what you need to do is you have to put some pressure. And the Dolphins' offensive line is not very good. Hopefully, you get Jalen Carter back to put pressure on Tua to make him not go after his first 2 reads and make him think a little bit, because that's where you can get to him.
Do you think that, and kind of tying it back together, this Jets loss is sitting with me very poorly because all signs point to they were looking past it, to the Dolphins game. All signs point to that. Because here's my thing. If they weren't, I think Darius Slay plays. If they weren't, I think Jalen Carter plays. You know what I mean? It's just such a... I feel like those injuries popped up very late in the week.
Well, I know Jalen Carter, they said, had an ankle sprain. So I think like if it was a playoff game, he would have played. I think they held him out because
and I'm okay with that for the most part. But again, what ends up happening is the team looks poor without their studs.
Yeah, and listen,
Darius Slay, you're a captain. You got to play.
What
if you can play, you got to play.
Was it bad that it was the Jets? Yes. Because of the injuries that they had, especially in the secondary. But to me, I think like last weekend, the bigger loss for me, in my opinion, was the Browns beating the 49ers. The 49ers lost to PJ Walker and the Browns.
The third string quarterback. Yes, they did.
Yeah. Third string quarterback. No Deshaun Watson, no Nick Chubb. Listen, you're going to have bad losses. You're going to have games where you may look, it's just, this is the stretch that's coming up where they all hands on deck. They have to be focused, because if they roll out, a hell of a stretch here, they're going to be vying for the number 1 seed in the NFC, which of course we want to see that. But it's going to be a tough game because you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert, and you have a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball for the Miami Dolphins that you have to try to stop.
A lot.
Yeah. So the thing about it is you need looking at this game, really breaking it down and really focusing on what the Eagles are going to have to do. Don't expect to say, okay, we're just going to go score for score, because that's not the way you beat the Miami Dolphins. You can't just go up and down the field, score for score. Yeah, you both may score a lot of points, but that's the type of game that they want to play, because their defense is not very strong. Their defense will give you up points. Their defense will give up yards. It's just what their defense is. It's, to me, the way to beat it. And it's kind of like when you look at the Greatest Show on Turf, Rams. You don't go up and down the field with them. That's not the way that you beat them. The way that you beat this Miami Dolphins team is somewhat of kind of what the Washington Commanders did last year with the Eagles. You eat the clock, you run the ball, you do long sustaining 12, 13, 14 plays.
You keep their offense off the field. That's the best defense. You keep their offense
off the field, you drain the clock, and you give the limited amount of possessions, because if you are able to get a turnover from Tua or stop them or something along the lines of that, it's going to feed into, what you want to do. And this is an Eagles team that can do this. They've shown you already early this year that they're able to do something along the lines of holding the ball, running the ball, being able to chew the clock, and being able to play a game that way. Hey, what is it? Win the game 24-20 or whatever it may be. Are they going to be able to keep it that low? I don't know, but I think that is a recipe that you are going to need to do to beat this Miami Dolphins team.
I agree. And like I said, you saw this Dolphins team hang up 70 points on an atrocious Broncos team. There's no denying that. But again, we are facing a lot of injuries right now in key positions that we have to stop this Dolphins team. And if we're going to turn the ball over, because that has become a new issue out of nowhere for Jalen Hurts. Turnovers cannot continue to happen. They just can't.
No, you can't be turning the ball over like that. You don't want to give the opposing team extra possessions because you're turning it over and giving them short fields. You don't want to be giving them short fields, because then there's possibility that they can get a touchdown or a field goal, giving them points. That's what they didn't do last year, and what they kind of have to shore up, and they have to be able to fix, because in the long run, you don't want to be turning the ball over the way that they have been the first 6 games of the season.
And again, I am looking at this Jets game as an outlier. Where I faced my biggest concerns was the fact that the Jets weren't playing anybody in their secondary.
Yeah.
They were without all of their key players. So this Super Bowl caliber Jets team should have been absolutely torn apart because they were playing no names and scrubs and backups.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I think that, again, I'm not ready to blow the whistle. I'm not ready to say that Brian Johnson needs to be fired and Jalen Hurts is a mediocre quarterback and he can't throw and he's not the MVP and the tush push or the brotherly shove is the only offense we run. I'm not ready to say any of these social media conspiracy theories. I am ready to say, though, that we need to be aware that these issues are out there and they have to be fixed before we get into this tough grunt part of our schedule.
No, you're right. It definitely is something they have to focus on. And listen, there's going to be, to me, I think it's going to be a raucous crowd. You know, the return of Kelly Green, all the kind of stuff that they're going to be doing. I think it's going to also, the players are probably going to be amped up for this. You know, it's the first time the Eagles have worn Kelly Green since January of 1996, the 1995 season. I know they wore the Kelly Green in 2010. I mean, this style Kelly Green, the real Kelly Green, the way I like to call it. But yeah, it's going to be a raucous crowd. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really neat to see them under the lights with that that new shade and the old shade. But I'm excited for it because and the Eagles are going to play in these tougher teams. It's going to show you what they're made of because it's not going to be these easy teams that, you know, you play terribly and you still can eke out a win. They're going to have to play good football because this upcoming stretch is not going to be easy.
It's ugly.
And you need to play your brand of football that you want to play to be able to rack off some wins here and keep yourself in the position for that number 1 seed.
Yeah, the next couple weeks are going to be ugly. I think that this team needs a bounce back. I'm glad that, you know, we're not talking 8-9-0 and, you know, are they going to run the table? Like, we got that out of our system. Now we can focus on football.
Yeah.
Now we can kind of go back to being the underdog since, you know, the Dolphins and the 49ers are the best teams in football. So I'm okay with kind of just
throwing the Chiefs in there too.
I'm fine with coasting to the, oh, you mean the Kansas City Tay-Tays?
Yeah, stop with that. But of course, we mentioned it last week too. Of course, we'll always keep an eye on the transactions and potential trade additions. I know the Eagles are scouring the safety market. I do believe whether it's a free agent or a trade, I do know I saw today that the Los Angeles Chargers claimed Jalen Hawkins, a former draft pick of the Atlanta Falcons, off waivers. And Desmond King of the Pittsburgh Steelers was cut. He can play nickel, can play safety, can be a punt returner. He has a lot of versatility there. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't really have a role for him, so they decided to let him go so he can find a spot on a contending team and be able to contribute. He would be a name that I definitely would bring in because the Eagles, they need as much help as they can get. And the problem is it's starting to remind me of 2018. Remember 2018 when you had the Trey Sullivans and the Chandon Sullivans and you have all these injuries that they had in the secondary and they were bringing up these guys. They re-signed Corey Graham back after he was there in 2017 and all these names that they were bringing in for the position in the secondary to try to, you know, some stopgaps because they were so injured. Crevan LeBlanc, they had claimed him, who he's a free agent too. Not saying they should sign him, but it's just give you that feeling because they're just throwing all these names right now because of all the injuries. And a player that I would be more than happy to bring back, and you may not want him back, but I'm always in favor, is Jalen Mills because he can play safety and he can do a number of things for you. And he's a lot better than some of the players that you have on your roster right now. But that is just throwing out there. There's a lot of names out there. It is going to be interesting. There's 13 days until the trade deadline. October 31st, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the deadline. So there's going to be some maneuvers. There's been some maneuvers the last couple days. So definitely keep an eye out. The Eagles, I believe, will be active. Maybe not a huge name. They may add a couple complimentary pieces like they have the last couple of days to try to shore up the roster. But Howie's always watching. And hey, we'll see. But this brings us to one of my favorite segments.
It's time for the Eureka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
And last week, the Eureka Locks Chip did not get his, which is no surprise. He is the New York Giants of the Eureka Locks at 1-5. Jonathan Taylor over 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 19 rushing yards and 34, 30. I think no,
he did
34,
not.
Whatever. You didn't have it. How about that? Now me, I had Tyreek Hill over 100 yards, and the Miami Dolphins win by 3 scores. So I, of course, had that correct. I am now 3-3. I am hitting 500, which is pretty good. I think it's one of the best starts that we've ever had with this, because usually we're always wrong.
Yeah.
So got it right on that one. Chip, I will let you go first. Maybe you can redeem yourself and get back into the winning column of the Eureka Locks. What is your lock for this week?
Gardner Minshew, 250 and 2 touchdowns.
250 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have a decent game if you look numbers-wise.
He is now the starting quarterback for the Colts the rest of the way.
He is the quarterback for the rest of the way for them. He had a couple interceptions, but I still think he is a very good backup for that Colts squad. But when I look at these games, I'm thinking about staying with the Eagles game just because, I just have a good feeling. Looking at Hassan Reddick and the way he has played, I am going to do Hassan Reddick 1.5 sacks on Sunday Night Football. He is absolutely wrecking it right now. He is playing at a high level. He is feeling good after getting that cast off. So I will jot that down. I was thinking about Jalen Carter, but I don't know for sure if he's playing. So I want to stay on a little bit more of a definite here. And I'm going to go Reddick 1.5 sacks, which now brings us to our predictions of this Sunday night matchup. The Miami Dolphins coming into Lincoln Financial Field, going to see the sea of Kelly Green in the stands and on the field. Where do you have this game and this matchup falling?
Well, you have a sea of Kelly Green in the stands and on the field and in my stomach, because the Eagles are not going to be able to beat the Miami Dolphins this week due to the significant injuries and the health of the Miami Dolphins. I don't think that it's a complete and total destruction, but I think that the Eagles have too many moving pieces as far as injuries and question marks on the offense right now. So I have the Miami Dolphins ruining my Sunday night by a score of 31-21.
So looking at this game, and again, I did mention how the Miami Dolphins have beaten a lot of poor teams, scoring a lot of points. Their only loss to the Buffalo Bills. And I think the Eagles are going to be able to control the clock. I think they are going to go on a few long drives, eat up the clock there to be able to kind of, halt the Miami Dolphins offense. And I think they will get a turnover or two. I have the Eagles winning this game 27-23. And I think it's going to be a big time rejuvenation. I think it's going to be a game that will really spark them going into the next portion of their schedule. And I just think that crowd, the Kelly Green, the vibes, everything is going to be it's going to be awesome. And I think the Eagles will bounce back, and I think Jalen will bounce back and have a really good game. But I have the Eagles winning this game 27-23, as I did note. But hey, try to get to 6-1 against a very good football team.
Listen, believe me, I like your pick a hell of a lot better than my pick. I'm just, I look ahead at things like, are Phillies fans going to be exhausted? So, you mentioned, you know, the fans showing up in force. Well, we've got a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday game against Arizona. You know what I mean? Saturday night and a Monday night game against Arizona if needed. So, I mean, it's right now the Phillies are the talk of the town.
And
if the Eagles were still undefeated, I would give the fans more credit in this specific situation. But my fear is, like I said, just the sports hangover that we all experienced last year.
Yeah, listen, to me, it's, did this last loss get a little overshadowed because of what's happening, at the other side of the parking lot with the Phillies? Yeah, it did. You don't have as much because they're talking about the playoff run for the Phillies and not really talking about the Eagles' loss as much, which, is that a benefit to the Eagles because there's not much noise out there? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think the Eagles will get on the right ship here. But before we go, I do want to give you a fun trivia question before we wrap it up and go our separate ways for the night. The Eagles are playing Sunday night, primetime football under the lights in their Kelly Green. When was the last time? You don't have to name the exact date and whatever, just the year. The last time the Philadelphia Eagles played a prime time game under the lights in the Kelly Greens. Like I said, just a year. You don't have to do the actual game and everything along the lines of that.
Well, there was no Thursday night football, so now we're down to really Monday night football because Sunday night football for a while wasn't even a thing either. I'm going to say 95.
95 is not correct. Now, a lot of people want to bring up the wild card game because, it was at night. The game started at 4 p.m. That was not started at night, and it was not a primetime game. It was not 1995. They had no primetime games in 1995 at home under the lights. I guess it doesn't matter if it's at home or away. It was in 1994. Now I'm going at home. I should have probably better stated that for you.
Was it the 94-95 season?
No, you know what? I am wrong. It is 95. You're right. You are right. I missed one game when I looked. 1995. It was against the Denver Broncos.
Suck it.
November 12th. They won the game 31-13.
Suck it.
Now, the other primetime game they had that year was at Arizona, September 10th. That was the only other primetime game. And then, of course, 94, they played against the Houston Oilers. But it was funny, 1995 was against Buddy Ryan. Way back. But I'm interested to see how everything looks. I liked on Sunday the creamsicles with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and everything.
How about the fact that the guy wouldn't shade with Penei Sewell?
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't blame him. I'd want the jersey too. Why would you want to give away?
I wouldn't.
The creamsicles, but like the Eagles, Kelly Green, you don't want to give it away. And I want to see how the end zones look if they use the old font and everything. It's just stuff like that I know doesn't really matter, but I just like the aesthetic, aesthetically speaking, of the look of the team in the Kelly Greens, the look of the field, everything.
I want 1995 beer prices.
Well, you can't have everything. I don't want beer. Get the hell out of here. I want 1995 house prices, 1995 gas prices. Go to Blockbuster, stuff like that. But, we could talk about the 90s and another time. But we are finished here thank you for joining us. Of course, as always, I myself, Johnny Uleka, always joined by Chip at Chip for the Birds.
Yeah, guys.
Yep, he's going to sleep, but Eagles hopefully get a wonderful victory, but he's snoring on. But of course, like you did mention, the Philly Sports Trips next weekend, not this upcoming weekend, next weekend, we are going to Washington. We have a full bus for the Allentown trip. We had a full bus for the Jets trip. It is awesome to see the Lehigh Valley area being able to help us, also help Philly Sports Trips, and being able to support them and go down there and not have to drive down to Philly to get our bus to go to the destinations. So, you know, it's a fun thing, and there'll be definitely trips in the future. So keep an eye out. And hey, we always end it with 2 words. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.